So, why do you feel so out of control driving? There are a few ways that driving anxiety occurs. And believe it or not, there's often a positive intention behind it, although I know it doesn't feel that way. Both paths often result in the same problem: driving anxiety, driving phobia, driving fear. And whether you suddenly developed a fear or you struggled for quite some time, the following insight may help you to understand driving anxiety a little bit more and why you feel so out of control driving. Now, when I experienced my first panic attack, I believed it was the start of my driving anxiety. I experienced something that I had never experienced before, consciously at least. And yet, in that moment, I had an intense fear. And it established a belief that I would harm myself and everyone else on the road. And that fear wasn't just a subconscious belief, it was ever present in my everyday life. Every time I got in the car, each time I woke in the morning, alive and kicking at 1 a.m. when I was struggling to sleep. And it remained so until I worked through it with my hypnotherapist. Now, one of the interesting things that I've discovered through working with many clients to overcome their driving fear is that the mind jumps to conclusions. When your subconscious mind feels something, whether it's an emotion or a physical sensation, and it's not quite sure what's going on, it kind of jumps to conclusion. Now, this can be in the form of a panic attack. It could be an irrational thought, which triggers a feeling. It could be a feeling that you felt for quite some time, but these jumps, they're well intentioned. They're made in an attempt to keep you safe and free from harm and to make sense of that sensation. And they do a good job on the whole, but not in the case of severe anxiety. Now, we experience something every day of our lives, and sometimes we can experience something that on a deeper level we aren't quite sure of. And in an attempt to make sense of it, the subconscious mind links it back to an emotion or a sensation that we felt when we were younger, connecting that feeling to now. And this can trigger your mind into replaying or feeling these sensations or emotions you established way back when, explaining why you can suddenly struggle to enjoy driving despite having done it for almost all of your life. And this idea that you did something or you could have stopped it from happening can really consume you. Asking why it happened to me. Where has all my confidence gone? When in reality, it actually could have been established 15 years ago. It's simply that your mind jumped to the conclusion that both emotions or both physical sensations were similar, and hey presto, you've got a driving anxiety. And once established, every time you get in the car or you think about driving, it activates that feeling. And it might place you back to that specific time or a specific person. In essence, you're fearful of driving now because your mind is reminding you of an experience from years ago. Driving may have very little to do with it. And it explains why rationally, you used to be a confident driver and yet you no longer feel that way. Now, you might be questioning why an event that happened when you were 5, for example, which was in no way connected to driving, can make you feel so terrible in adulthood. And you may have even tried to rationalize why you do or don't feel a certain way. But that's where the problem really lies. Logic and reason are a conscious act, whereas the jump actually takes place subconsciously, and no amount of thinking, planning, or overthinking can really help you to figure it out. That change needs to happen on a subconscious level. Now, the subconscious mind is that part of your mind that knows everything about you. It's always listening. It's always aware. It sees, hears, feels everything that is happening to you since the day you were born, and things that you no longer can remember. Now, it's human nature to focus on the negatives, as it has helped us to evolve and to stay safe. But these big events and small events can really start to add up. You may not even be aware of something that has impacted you, but your subconscious mind remembers. Each time you experience something negative, it adds to that pressure as it builds up. And as we go through life, the pressure adds up. For some, it happens so gradually that they never really noticed. And for others, it can build up. And although consciously you may not be aware of it, the subconscious mind is keeping score, building to such a degree that the pressure has to come out. And this can often happen whilst driving. Now, nothing quite matches driving in this respect. It's emotive, with other drivers honking their horns, jumping lights, driving faster than you feel safe to do. You may feel judged by other drivers if you take a little more time. And most of us can do it automatically. It's a space to turn off and let our mind wander. And yet it can be dangerous if we aren't paying attention. And combined that with time pressure of traffic and the possibility of running late, and our senses become heightened. And the release of this pressure can often get associated with driving. Now, the panic attack that I experienced felt like an out-of-body experience, and you can read that in another blog. But I think it was an attempt to release this pressure. And what was most interesting to me is that it happened in a second. 1 second, I was a confident driver, and the next, I was a complete wreck. And of course, the mind plays loose with time. And what felt like a quick decline into no longer being able to drive probably took more like 3 to 6 months. But because I was so focused on what happened and where all of my confidence had gone, that timeline became a little blurry. Now, during the sessions, I've witnessed clients relate to each path, instinctively knowing where it started, whereas others having no idea where that connection was made. Why would they, as that connection actually happened, and that jump happened subconsciously? And yet ultimately they can find clarity and gain insight during our sessions. Often connections are made in the unlikely of situations. An insight can be gained, helping you to release that pressure and build your confidence to drive again. Now, you may understand your story of anxiety really well. You may know the exact point where it started, but no matter how hard you think about it or reason, the problem doesn't go away. And that's because the problem needs to be resolved subconsciously. Often the way your mind copes with your anxiety is to increase the symptoms, however they show up for you. It may stop you or reduce you from driving altogether. Have you ever noticed that if you decide not to drive or you don't take the motorway, that anxiety goes away, or that voice in your mind quietens? And that's because your subconscious mind did a really good job and it's kept you safe, and it goes away for a while. And often becoming louder when you try to drive again. And ultimately your thoughts, your feelings, your physical sensations, they're a sign that something is blocking you from feeling the confident driver that you know you can be. And in a way, that message is something that needs to be resolved. And hypnosis is a great way to clear those blockages and connections that may have been made, which are no longer helping you. And if this resonates with you and you're interested in really getting to the root cause of your driving anxiety, you can book an exploration call to discuss how hypnosis can help you to clear these blockages, and you can become the confident driver that you know you can be.